All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday night webinar for the Institute of Interpersonal Hypnotherapy. Welcome to Sarah Ajna, our admissions director now, and to Jose Canton, who's part of our tech and C-level team. And welcome to Daphne, who's a graduate, Mary Beth, who I know I've seen around, I forget exactly where, Tony Wilder, good to see you, familiar name from the past. So get some graduates here. Can you, Tony? Yeah, so, and then hopefully some new people being introduced to what we're all about. So glad everybody's here tonight. In case you don't know, my name is Matthew Brownstein. I'm the founder of this school. And tonight we're going to dive into what is interpersonal hypnotherapy. So let me get us started. We have a PowerPoint to go through, probably take about an hour or so. So for graduates, I think you know what this is all about, but I'm flattered that you still want to be around the energy of things. So let's start with the PowerPoint, dive right in. We'll have time for Q&A for sure, and then I'll introduce you to Sarah. And if Jose wants to say something, you're welcome to. So we're going to do this version of it. And let me just open the chat. If you have any questions or having trouble seeing or hearing me, definitely let me know. All right, so we are interpersonal hypnotherapy, and tonight's topic is what is that? Well, let me start actually by working to answer that question, and I'll tell you a little bit about my history to put it into context. So, my background started, my whole path started in 1992 when I had a spiritual awakening. Something really changed. I went from being normal, average, perfectly fine person, I think, to someone who had experienced something that was awe-inspiring. Um, I'm hesitant, on using words like God, and I never know who my audience is, but I can tell you whatever I experienced sure felt like that. It was pure peace. It was just so much love and bliss and light and joy, and everything felt just wonderful. And then the next morning, that experience was gone. But I had a glimpse, I had a taste of something that was very compelling. And oops, sorry, let me just be sure I can see the chat pod in case the attendance list, if anybody else joins in. Um, what I had experienced was so awe-inspiring. I had to dedicate my life to figuring out how to feel that again. I turned to philosophy and religion in college. I turned to two different Chinese medical colleges. I learned Reiki, massage, shiatsu, herbology, homeopathy. I mean, I really went around the block. I lived in yoga ashrams, monasteries. I lived in India, in the Himalayas, and I really learned how to tap back into that. It's no longer a mystery for me how to return to peace, bliss, joy, love, oneness and divine guidance. And what I found that I love sharing with other people is that we all have a mission. We all have a purpose. There's a reason for you to be here. You're meant to do something wonderful in the world. Part of what I do, because my background in Chinese medicine, is I love helping people to use their mind to heal their body. I'm working with a gentleman now with pancreatic cancer, and usually that's a very poor prognosis, but his tumors are shrinking. He's able to go and get the surgery he needs, and he'll probably be part of that 1% that actually survives that diagnosis. I just had another client recently who completely overcame cancer using, of course, traditional care, but as an adjunct, the power of her mind. And someone in 2023 with the same thing. It is absolutely extremely rewarding. Let me just welcome in one of our new students who's joining slowly, so I'll get back to him in a sec. There he is. Hey Jay, welcome to class. Glad you're here. Welcome, welcome. All right, so yeah, welcome all of our new students who are starting in the May class. So we're talking a little bit about my background, but mostly just talk about what is interpersonal hypnotherapy. So you're getting a sense of what motivates the work. A profound experience I had that I wanted to tap into again for the rest of my life, and I wanted to help humanity, to help everybody tap into what we all want to feel, right? Happiness, peace, love, joy, bliss, oneness, and prosperity and guidance and mission and purpose, a life that's really worth living. So, long story short, after opening, I've been in this field now for 30 years. I've run the hypnotherapy school for about 18 years. We are at about class number close to 70 classes that we've graduated. And we have well over 1,000 students who have been through the training. So it's become quite a movement, not always easy, but something I've dedicated my whole life to. So the long story short to what is interpersonal hypnotherapy, I was in meditation one night talking to what you might call higher self or higher guidance or super conscious mind. And I was literally just saying, what is hypnotherapy? What is the essence of it? And I said, is it transpersonal, meaning it's all about bringing people to self-realization, to help them to know who they truly are, to awaken them to their true selves? And my inner guidance voice said, yes, and it's interpersonal. It's transpersonal, meaning you can use hypnotherapy to help to enlighten humanity to who they truly are. Like, that's a noble cause. We can use it for smoking and weight loss and stress reduction, and we can use it for honestly anything the mind affects, hypnosis can work on. But me, you're getting a sense of my background, really a monk at heart. We just had our first monastic retreat up here, actually, at what I'm now calling Anahat Monastery. So welcome to Bill and Elizabeth, who were there. So they got to really get a sense of me when I'm really, in my kind of spiritual monastic element. But we tone that down, of course, with this school. But, to be honest, so people know what's the right fit in this school, there's definitely an underpinning of a spirituality, but it's a very universal approach, not religion. It just honors that you're a spiritual being having a human experience, and who you are is a glorious being. So, why interpersonal? Because healing occurs in relationships, right? And I'll unpack the word interpersonal as we move along. But just so you know, that is our brand. It came from that one, you might call it a revelation or kind of a download, where that inner guidance was saying it's interpersonal. And I started really contemplating, what does that mean? I wrote a book called Interpersonal Hypnotherapy, and in there, the subtitle is Honoring the Sacred and Transformational Relationships. So hopefully just that one line gives you a taste of what do we mean by interpersonal hypnotherapy, honoring the sacred in transformational relationships. Before I go any further, a dear graduate, teacher of ours, and now head of our admissions, Sarah Ajna is here. And Sarah, I wonder if you'd like to introduce yourself and maybe talk about whatever you feel inspired to say right now.
Thank you, Matthew. I'm so happy to be here. It's exciting. I'm Sarah Ajna. I'm the admissions director now. Um, and I'm also an instructor for the school. So if you enroll at I might be your instructor at some point.
Mhm.
I'm a certified interpersonal hypnotherapist. I went through the training. I loved it so much that I did it twice and I
Mhm.
never left. I pretty much was like stood by the school because I truly believe in the mission. It transformed my life on in every aspect. I mean, I have stories for days. And you all will have your own unique stories. And I work with women in my own private practice. I work with women and help them empower to be the best version of themselves. And oh, I see Megan. Hi, Megan. We spoke the other day.
Mhm.
We had a beautiful talk. I'm also an author as well. I wrote a kid's book called You Are the Universe, and it's really a book. It's for kid. It's for all ages, including adults, because it carries a universal theme of unity and love and kindness. And I just, I believe that we should start with the children. Um, and it's interesting. I find that the adults are more excited for the book because it just brings out their inner child.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, and now I get to do this work. I get to help people, and the transformations are unreal. Like I pinch myself every day because I'm like, I get to do this work. Like I'm just so grateful, and the transformations are unreal. Like Matthew was saying, healing cancer. I have a client who was completely healed of cancer. And because of her, I ended up getting so many clients. And I'm just truly grateful that I could do this work. Like I said, I never left and I don't intend on leaving. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I love it here.
Thank you, Sarah. I so appreciate you in every way. And yeah, welcome to people who Sarah's been enrolling. So welcome Anna and Megan and Jay. At least those guys I know are in the upcoming class. And again, welcome everybody else. Awesome. And welcome again, Jose. Jose, did you want to say something or are you just hanging out?
Sure. I mean, after Sarah's introduction, that was beautiful, Sarah. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
My name is Jose Miguel. I am down in Mexico City and working with the Institute. I am the CTO, taking care of the website, making sure that you guys have all the information that you need, that everything that you find in the website runs smoothly, and also taking care of all the automations and internal notifications. So our wonderful team can get in contact with you as soon as possible. And I'm a neuroscientist. I'm focused in behavioral neuroscience, and I also do educational content for kids. I just submitted for revision my course on happiness for life for teenagers. I'm excited about that, and currently working on some other projects with the World Happiness Foundation, and very excited to see everything that comes out of this, and happy to be here and be here as a student listening to Matthew.
Thanks, Jose. I really appreciate you. Jose basically helps to make your experience with us seamless. So all the tech flows well. It's a super hard job, but he's doing great. Welcome, Judy. Here you're doing well. Very happy to hear that. Um, all right. So thank you. Sarah and Jose are part of the team joining in. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. We'll keep moving along. And we talked about a little bit what is interpersonal hypnotherapy. Here are logos just to orient you a little bit. The six-pointed star is not any specific religious symbol. It's the symbol for the heart chakra. So basically, this is heart-centered work. The heart chakra is a 12-petaled lotus surrounding a six-pointed star. And the name of that is Anahat. It's the name of the heart chakra. What does that mean? If you want a simple word for it, is love. Yet deeper than just the human emotion of love, we're talking about the very source of all that is, because the word anahat in Sanskrit means unstruck, that which not vibrating. So if we use theistic terms, and I know not everybody does, so I respect that, but just think about how when the Bible says God said, "Let there be light," what was there before light? That's the word anahat, before any light, sound, geometry, before any manifestation. So you might say it's the heart of the universe. It's your heart. It's how you're a drop of that infinite ocean of love. And I'm a Course in Miracles student and teacher. And the course basically teaches that this is a return to love. And we simply need to remove the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. So the sacred geometry is behind everything we're doing here. One of my books is called The Sacred Geometry of Meditation, and that influences what we do. But the school starts relatively down to earth, fundamentals of hypnotism. We'll talk about some of that. But eventually, for the students who are interested, we pace and lead into some of the deeper mysteries, some of the ancient mystery schools, and what are the deep teachings of Buddhism and Hinduism, yoga, Taoism, Christian mysticism, Kabbalah. Like, what do these teachings say to us? Essentially, they help us to be free of suffering and to actualize our full potential. When you combine those teachings with hypnotherapy, you have an exceptionally powerful set of tools and way of being. So the Institute's logo has that kind of not hidden, it's right there, but you can see Anahat was my original life's work, and then it's like right there on the school's logo. There's also a squared circle in there for those that know about sacred geometry, and we have an association called the International Association of Interpersonal Hypnotherapists. It's a beautiful sangha, a beautiful community of practitioners. We have annual conferences, CEU courses. We're now doing annual retreats, hopefully at least twice a year up here. I live up in the Adirondack Mountains of upstate New York, even though our school is headquartered in Florida. But most of our training is done online, but you could also train in Orlando for the practicum hours. So about 70% of the training is done online from anywhere in the world. You could do 100% of it online. We're licensed by the Department of Education to do so. And just so you know, we are actually Florida's first and still, after 18 years, as far as I know, still the only state licensed school in hypnotherapy in the state of Florida. There's only a handful of state licensed schools around the country. So if I were to give you a little advice, there's no worse advice than advice, but this is a good piece of wisdom. If you're looking into hypnotherapy schools, honestly, only attend state licensed schools. I'm not saying we're the only one, we're one of the few, but there's a big difference when you get into state licensed education as opposed to like a 100-hour or kind of a weekend workshop type of thing that's unregulated, that doesn't have the standards of what the Department of Education wants of a legitimate career school. So our next training begins May 13th, again online. 70% or Orlando. So basically, you can do 70% online, and then 30% can be done online as well, or the other 30% can be done in Orlando. Website, of course, is here. So this is our website, and one thing, if you haven't got it yet on there, is our hypnotherapy care package. It's pretty easy to find on the website. It gives you the first hour of like an introduction at no charge. Then it actually gives you the first 4.5 hours of training at no charge. And if you just call us and say you're interested, we can even get you the first 20 hours. So we work to make it as easy as possible. So there's no risk. Feel it out. If it's right for you, awesome. If not, of course, I only want people to be part of this if it feels right for them. So you could check more out at instituteofhypnotherapy.com. I do a lot of free classes. It's all about giving, giving, giving. So there are 60 hours of free meditation training online. You can go to onlinemonastery.com. It'll take you to one of my other projects, which is a complete solid meditation certification course. There are over 50 hours of free A Course in Miracles classes online on our website. And this is the one I'm doing this year. Hey, Angela, good to have you here. Welcome. Um, every other Sunday evening, we're doing the Life Mastery Path. You can see all of these recordings on YouTube on our website. And it's a great way to stick around, to be part of the community. There's a lot of graduates here tonight. It's just wonderful to be with your friends, with your colleagues. And this is a good place we can connect. We also have a community support group you can find on our website as well, which is totally open to the public. So let's dive in a little bit to tonight's topic officially. What is hypnotherapy? What is hypnosis? What is hypnotherapy? What is interpersonal hypnotherapy? Let's take a little dive into the history to help you to understand it. So we're talking literally thousands of years of history. In the school, I give a good 1 hour lecture on this, but here it is in 5 to 7 minutes or so. It started, altered states were aware of these ancient sleep temples in Greece, in Egypt, I'm sure other places. There could be priests offering incantations. Some of these places were caves where there were probably some natural gases that were causing altered states. But we've realized early on in human history, you move into an altered state, you're more receptive to suggestions. If you have a priest praying over you saying that healing is occurring, maybe there's some mystical power, but generally, there's the power of the mind, right? We see this in faith healing. In fact, if you really look at what's happening in faith healing, it's very much the formula for hypnosis. But the places really started was in the 18th century, in the 1700s, right around 1776, around that time, with Franz Anton Mesmer. He was a physician in Vienna and he studied the works of Paracelsus and his teacher, Father Maximilian Hale. And basically, there was this theory that we have this animal magnetism, that there are invisible forces in the universe. There's electricity, we don't see it, it's there. There's gravity, we don't see it, and it's there. Then there's magnetism, we don't see it, but it's there. There was the belief that we have this magnetic fluid, this energy inside of us. But Mesmer actually started using magnets. He was rubbing magnets over people's bodies, these magnetic passes, and people were healing. It was really profound. There's no doubt healing was occurring, but the question was why? Mesmer one day forgot his magnets when he went to go do a session, and he said, well, the power is in me anyway. Why don't I just try using my hands to do this? He got the same results, and he concluded, whoa, the power was never. Could I ask everybody to mute your mics, please? I hear some background noise. Can't quite see who that is there. Thank you. Good. Welcome, Dolores. Thank you. So Mesmer starts realizing the power to heal is inside of me. His reputation preceded him when he went to Paris. He was actually invited by King Louis, was it the 16th, and Marie Antoinette. They knew him. He played for the Mozarts. He really became very well known. And or played for the Mozarts. Somehow he was connected with Mozart. But basically, the healings were happening, and they sent a delegation to Paris to study Mesmer. It was actually the first scientific study of this kind of metaphysical phenomena. Mesmer was studied by Ben Franklin, who was part of the delegation, and also Dr. Joseph Guillotine, the guillotine. So two very famous people had actually studied Mesmer, and they concluded, and this was the nail in the coffin for mesmerism. Ben Franklin actually said Mesmer is not healing through the power of any energy. In their mind, they disproved that there's any energy transfer. Ben Franklin said he's healing through the power of belief, suggestion, and imagination. just the power of the mind. Mesmer was ridiculed, basically kind of kicked out of France. There's all these cartoons that show, people at the time just saying, we don't even want this guy around anymore. Mesmerism never totally died, but it really lost popular favor. No legitimate medical or scientific person would touch it. But in 1864, Dr. James Braid said, you know what? Let's revisit this idea. Let's just call it something different and let's call it for what it is. He was going to call it neurohypnology. I'm kind of glad he called it hypnosis based on the Greek god of sleep. And he basically said this is all the power of suggestion. We can get the same results just using suggestion. There's a lot of truth to that. So Mesmer and Dr. Braid and Sigmund Freud was using hypnosis around these early years. Freud was actually using the power of suggestion, but he found that it didn't stick. It didn't really last, which is relevant to tonight's topic, right? Just the power of suggestion, like our fundamentals training, isn't quite enough. If you only did fundamentals work, I think you'll discover what a lot of these guys did. It's only about 25% effective. Freud kind of dropped using hypnosis because he's like, the power of suggestion just doesn't always stick. If somebody is anxious and you say you're now calm and relaxed, that might last for a while, but the symptoms come back. And we'll talk tonight about why we have to go deeper. Freud actually was doing hypnotic regressions. His teacher, Dr. Joseph Breuer, was regressing people to the cause of their problems. Um, Long story short, Freud's colleagues didn't want to hear about any of this. And honestly, because a lot of the regressions went back to childhood sexual abuse, and nobody was willing to talk about that at the time. So Freud was like, we're dropping the whole hypnosis thing, which is a big reason why hypnosis is not as popular as it could be today. Because Freud, as most of you know, is considered like the father of psychoanalysis. And he basically said, the power of suggestion doesn't really work, and we don't want to be doing these regressions. He also supposedly used a lot of cocaine and had bad breath and didn't have a good rapport with his clients. So he may not have just been a good hypnotist, honestly. But anyway, the regression model was there, but never really, really well popularized. My dear mentor, Mr. Gilboyne, who's passed away somewhere around 2013, around 2010, I believe. Gil was a real giant in this field. He was using hypnotic regressions, but also combining it with Fritz Perls Gestalt therapy. And in our school, we're highly influenced by Gil. You see a lot of the videos with him. If you look on our website, you see a picture with me and Gil. I brought my students to his conferences back in the day. So he's the one who helped me to open the school in 2007. So thank you, Gil, for helping to make this a reality. We're no longer part of his association. After he passed, I realized I really wanted a much higher standard for what we're doing. So I decided to stand on the shoulders of a giant and we would do our own thing. So with Gil's help, I actually founded the school in 2007. And then again, he passed away, I think, around 2010. We started as the Florida Institute of Hypnotherapy. And the name changed because, as I mentioned when we started, not everybody heard that, but when I was asking my higher guidance, what is hypnosis? What is hypnotherapy? What's it all about? I said, is it transpersonal? Is it about bringing people to self-realization? And the inner voice said, yes, and it's interpersonal. Not long after contemplating that word for quite a while, but not long after, I changed the name of the school. We also went out of Florida. I don't live in Florida anymore. We have graduates all over the country, all over the world. There's practitioners literally probably in almost every country, maybe not every country. I think there's 195 countries, but we do have graduates all over the world. And because we're international, I founded the International Association of Interpersonal Hypnotherapists. So the name wasn't changed for any negative reason. It was just I became much more clear in what the vision was. That's a little bit about the history, but what is hypnosis itself? This is a picture from our 2016 conference, I want to say. So we do have conferences every year. The next one's coming up in Orlando, October the 6th to the 8th. So what is hypnosis? We define it as a natural, meaning not drug-induced, altered state of mind. Altered just means different than your regular waking consciousness. Just one sec. I just want to be sure I'm not missing anybody. Okay. Natural yet altered state of mind. Altered, just different than normal. When you're really, really deeply relaxed, it's altered. When you're more in touch with your inner being, it's altered. Okay, so altered doesn't mean some odd brainwave state. We go from a regular beta waking consciousness Then we start going into alpha activity. It's hypnagogic. It's half awake, kind of half asleep, like when you're waking up in the morning, you're falling asleep at night, or you're daydreaming. Or have you ever been driving down the road and you pass your exit? Your mind was kind of off to the side, but your subconscious was driving the car. You're still there. If a deer jumped in front of the car, your conscious mind would jump right back in. So when you're hypnotized, you're fully conscious, you're fully in control. You never say things you don't want to say or do things you don't want to do. You do remember the whole experience. We can talk about why, but I'm telling you, in professional clinical hypnotherapy, you'll remember the whole experience. This is in stage hypnosis, where sometimes you'll see the post-hypnotic amnesia. But we basically say hypnosis is a natural yet altered state of mind marked by a high degree of responsiveness, not even a high degree, just a degree of responsiveness and communication with the subconscious mind. The essence of the work is the heart, which is very much your subconscious mind. What is your subconscious? It's the seat of your memories. It's the seat of your core belief systems about yourself, therefore, the root of your self esteem. It is the seat of your emotions. You know how people can push your buttons? Those are living in your subconscious. And when you get triggered, that's the stuff in your subconscious. Again, I'll take a deeper dive tonight into why is that so important, right? We don't want to just work with people's conscious minds. That's not the root of the problem. The heart is the root of the mind. Whatever this feels, this talks about. And this is a problem-solving intelligence, the conscious mind. The subconscious is your emotional mind. And when it doesn't feel good, have you ever noticed your mind never shuts up about trying to figure out what to do to make it feel better? When we bring the heart to a deep sense of peace, the conscious mind becomes much more calm. I was working with a current student of ours who became a client, and he during the session we were clearing a lot of emotion. You could watch his heart just filled with pain, and then I got to the next layer, and then you see his solar plexus locking up filled with pain. We cleared all of that literally in 2 sessions. He signed up for 4 sessions, and on the third session I'm like, all right, what do you want to work on today? He's like, I don't know, I feel incredible. He said, my mind, he's like, my thoughts are 50% quieter than they were before. And this was somebody who was really feeling at his wit's end. And literally in 4 hours of work, complete trajectory change in his life. We can go on and on about stories, but this is just so incredibly powerful. Daphne, who's a graduate, said, I'm so very grateful to have met you and have the privilege to study under you. Thank you. I know we did not cover stroke patients, but we are practicing what you have taught us, and we use your session during physical therapy daily. Thank you and welcome, Judy. So Daphne said we could talk about that. So mother-daughter went through the training. Judy had a stroke after some time after graduation, and they're using hypnotherapy to help her in her recovery. And I'm hearing only really good things, and I'm glad I was able to contribute as well. Um, so yeah, we don't necessarily go into a lot of specific topics of what you need to heal. Like if you had to study every single medical condition out there, you would never get through this training in a reasonable period of time. I teach you universal approaches that could be applied to anything. And then, of course, I or other staff can give you tips, and there's books that can give you tips on how to work with specifics. So we focus on a very general approach to well-being in this work. All right, so that's a little bit about hypnosis. Why hypnotherapy? These are some images from our past 2025 conference in Orlando. Again, the next one's happening October 6th to the 8th, 2026. So why hypnotherapy? What is hypnotherapy? Hypnosis basically could be considered where you put someone into that altered state. Basically, simply stated, relaxed, receptive, and responsive. Not unconscious or out of control, just relaxed, receptive, and responsive. That is slightly misleading because you don't have to be relaxed to be hypnotized, but for a simple explanation, hypnosis is relaxed, receptive, and responsive. And a hypnotist, someone who has, maybe about 100 hours of training, can offer direct suggestions. In basic fundamentals work, you learn to put people into hypnosis. In our fundamentals, we teach you how to take them to the very depths of hypnosis, which is more than you need to actually know for fundamentals, but there's a lot coming after fundamentals where deep hypnotic states are really valuable. But once we basically put them into hypnosis, level hypnotist type practitioner will just give direct suggestions. You are now losing weight. You are now a non-smoker. You now sleep better at night. You now find you're making more money. You're now more motivated and you show up on time, right? We can program in virtually anything. But like I said earlier, it's only going to be about 25% effective. We don't have really time to go into why, but just trust me, if that's all you know how to do, then it's good. You got some skill sets. But why hypnotherapy? The latter part of our training, hours 200 to 522 plus, so we're over 500 hours of training. The majority of our training is dedicated to hypnotherapy. What is that? Powerful transformational modalities that talk not just to the subconscious, but with the subconscious. Why would suggestions not always stick, right? Wouldn't that be wonderful if it worked for Freud, if it works for somebody with 100 hours of training? Like, it'll work, but usually you need a lot of repetition, and then still, maybe the change isn't happening at the deepest level possible. Um, so when you talk just to the subconscious, there are parts within there that can reject suggestions. Let's say when you were 5 years old, your parents convinced you you're unlovable. And now I put you into hypnosis and I say, no, you are lovable. I'm telling you, that inner child is like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. Even though they're in hypnosis, there are parts in the subconscious that use memories as evidence to say, nope, not true. In hypnotherapy, we can bring those memories, beliefs, and emotions to consciousness and transform them quickly, powerfully. And basically, that's my definition of hypnotherapy. Powerful transformational modalities, usually within a matter of 2 to 4 sessions for any issue, we're seeing significant change because we're talking with the subconscious, not just to it. So, if you have some basic training in this, it's going to help you, but to help others. But when you really go deep, into hypnotherapy, that's where the awe-inspiring change comes from. Okay, with that said, what is interpersonal hypnotherapy? I alluded to the idea already that we're on, and welcome anybody who just joined in. I alluded to the idea earlier that we're honoring the sacred in transformational relationships. So part of interpersonal means we honor that when two people come together, that's where the real miracles can occur. But interpersonal is deeper than just two people coming together because almost any type of facilitation involves two people coming together. A big part of interpersonal hypnotherapy is about getting to the root cause of the problem. Let me jump ahead and we'll look at this model, getting to the root cause. Past events, which are now the memory stored in your subconscious, lead to your beliefs about yourself, negative beliefs like I'm bad, I'm stupid, I'm useless, I'm unlovable, I'm shameful, I'm not good enough, I'm incapable. Those kind of beliefs will ruin your life. And all those negative beliefs cause your negative emotions. So if dad comes home drunk and he's yelling and insulting you, and you start concluding, I'm just a bad, worthless person, you're going to feel sad. You're going to feel scared. You might be getting angry and you're probably going to feel guilty. But what do you do with those emotions? As a kid, you don't know. Usually you bottle them up and just hope to get by. The problem is when this stuff is buried in the subconscious, it leads to maladaptive behaviors to try to feel better, and it does lead to psychosomatic illness. By definition, psychosomatic means the mind's causing the problem, and what part of the mind? The subconscious, with its negative memories, beliefs, and emotions. Interpersonal hypnotherapy doesn't just get to the root cause event. There's not only one event. If you had a dad who is continually abusive, it's not one event, right? When you talk about characterological low self-esteem, meaning the low self-esteem that kind of pervades everything you do, that's not from one event. It's usually from poor parenting, honestly, or others in your life who seriously influenced you as a kid. So, interpersonal hypnotherapy says we're going to look for the root cause relationships underneath the whole problem. What Gil Boyne, I had mentioned Gil earlier, for those who joined in, there's Gil. Again, he helped me to open the school. He's so influential in our work. He taught what's called the ISE. We get to the initial sensitizing event. That's what most of us learn in classical hypnotherapy, those who are trained in the regressive hypnosis model. But what I started realizing is these are unhealed or unforgiven relationships. So our work will trace beliefs and emotions back to the root cause, but instead of looking for specific events, we start targeting specific relationships. And we realize these basically are unforgiven relationships. If you're still mad at your dad, as an example, and you feel guilty, what you actually need is forgiveness. So now let's say we're dealing with psychosomatic illness, irritable bowel syndrome, right? This stuff is great for dealing with your gastrointestinal issues. I've seen Crohn's disease healed in a matter of 10 hours total, 5 sessions. I've seen ulcerative colitis healed, irritable bowel syndrome, endometriosis, not that that's in the exact same category, but just stuff that's popping in my mind. Um, so if we're saying these physical symptoms are psychosomatic, then we obviously have to clear the emotions, clear the negative beliefs, yeah, heal some of the events, but we really need to heal the unforgiven relationships. So you could say all illness is really a lack of forgiveness. And this is very much aligned with A Course in Miracles and the idea that the return to love happens through forgiveness. So interpersonal hypnotherapy is definitely rooted in those deeper teachings and really working to get to the root cause. So that's a little bit about why we call it interpersonal. I could go on, but it takes 522 hours. Here's how it breaks down. The hypnotist training, which we, kind of promote. It's available, but, it's for those who really only want to do 100 hours. We'd rather you do that through us than somewhere else. And then it lays a foundation because those hours are transferable. The hypnotist program with us is through our association, the International Association of Interpersonal Hypnotherapists. It's not an official state licensed diploma because it's not a career training. It's right, just those who want to get their feet wet and learn some good skill sets. And you will, and you do. But then once you get into the 300 series, which includes that 100 hours, then you're talking about the first state license program where you get legitimate diplomas from a state license school backed by the Department of Education. Again, that's pretty rare in this field. You get all the fundamentals teachings, you get much deeper advanced teachings, including business and practice management, advertising and marketing. We have a dashboard, which I'm not going to show you tonight for the sake of time, but in there we have a calculator where you could say, if I see this many clients per week and I charge this much per hour, how much could I make per hour? If you go to our website and find our member directory, you can see what our graduates are making. Honestly, when I started the school, I was telling people charge 70, 90 per hour. Now I look at what our graduates are charging, 150, 175. One of our graduates on our website is charging $295 per hour. Most sessions are 2 hours. We can't guarantee you how much money you're going to make in this profession. That would be unethical and illegal according to the Department of Education, but do your math. If you just charge, we use a round number, $100 an hour, which is kind of low these days, actually, and you do 2 hour sessions, $200 every session. Now, what if you saw 3 clients a day, $600 a day? What if you did that 5 days a week, $3,000 a week? Multiply that by four, it's $12,000 per month. You're talking a very comfortable six-figure income. Again, I'm not promising that, but when you go through our training, you'll see an interview with one of our graduates who in 2023 did $250,000. She gets $500 a session. Again, not everybody does that, but it's completely possible. Even if you did a fraction of that, it's a supplement to your income. And this day and age, it's kind of nice to have that to fall back upon. Our clinical training is 400 total hours, which includes, what we just looked at. That goes into medical hypnosis, the clinical aspects of it. Again, we talk a lot about healing the mind to heal the body. We teach you how to work with medical professionals to do it legally. You can't just do hypnosis for pain and medical conditions without proper training and working with physicians. But we get referrals from physicians. It's very rewarding work. But aside from just the healing and pain management component of clinical, we go into breath work, we go into more regressive hypnosis, natal regression to get to the root cause of issues. We talk about hypnosis for childbirthing, dentistry, like I said, pain management. We teach you how to work in hospitals and medical settings to a degree. But all of that is in there. And then we definitely start getting into the metaphysics of mind body healing, including what I call the 10-minute miracle cure, or a rapid resolution process that gets to the root cause of issues very quickly. Once we get to transpersonal, and I know that's why a lot of people come to our school, but trust me, you don't want to try to get that stuff first. The foundations are really important. How do we induce hypnosis? How do we know how deep they are? What if we did go back to a childhood memory? A lot of people do these short past life regression trainings where they learn one technique. It's not terribly hard to learn to do that. But the problem is if you only have one tool, if you're a hammer, all you see is nails, right? If I can go on and on about that idea. But if you have limited skill sets, then, what can you do when other things come up? I'm telling you, lots of other things can come up once you start getting into the subconscious. So we do teach you past life regression, life between life regression. You could always go deeper into these topics, but honestly, this is 100 hours of really rich stuff. We go into deeper esoteric topics. We call this special instances of altered state work, dealing with things like the alien abduction phenomena. I just had a potential client email me the other day. He said, I really think I'm an abductee. Can you help me? I'm like, yeah, actually, I've been around the block with this. I can. Um, so yeah, there's this cool stuff that comes out of the subconscious as you really go deep into that. Because of my background in monastic living and studying philosophy and religion, we go into deeper esoteric topics, stages of spiritual growth, samadhi meditation, how to go into the deepest meditative states. And really the movement is about healing and enlightenment, or the movement towards self-realization and personal wholeness. Beyond the 500 hours, there is the interpersonal hypnotherapist course itself. It goes into our rapid resolution process and it synthesizes all the information to take it to a higher level. So basically, the whole track is 522 hours. We let you repeat the entire training at no charge for life. We've had graduates who have repeated the training 2 or 3 times just because you always get so much more out of it each time that you do. I've been doing that for 18 years, and I don't plan to change my mind about being generous in that way. So let's go a little bit deeper into how healing works with this. We'll wrap it up towards the end of the hour, and then we'll open to Q&A, anything you guys might want to share. In A Course in Miracles, it teaches there's only one problem and only one solution. The Course also says thoughts are either true or not true. So just ask yourself, is that true? I mean, when you go to the doctor, there's 500,000 problems and there's 500,000 solutions. But not according to A Course in Miracles. There's one problem and one solution. If that's true, healing actually becomes remarkably easy. Quick story. I had a medical doctor going through the training. He was standing in the back of the classroom at the time, and I asked for a volunteer. He came up and he said, the reason I'm standing is I have excruciating low back pain. I can't sit. I said, okay. From 0 to 10, how strong is that? He's like, it's like a 9. I said, okay, how do you feel? He's like, I'm angry about this. I said, from 0 to 10, how strong is the anger? 9. We went through the rapid resolution process that I alluded to earlier, and literally within a half hour or less, he was down to a 0. No pain, no anger. And he said to me, this is a high ranking medical doctor, he said, oh my God, Matthew, you're showing me you're going to make my profession obsolete. I don't think that's true. We need our doctors, but that was, and he's a bone doctor. We need those guys, but that was flattering to hear. And I demonstrated all the time at a recent conference. We had somebody in agonizing emotional pain. She was ready to leave the conference. She was feeling so bad. I asked for a volunteer. She came up within a half hour, totally clear, and she spent the rest of the conference there really, really happy and feeling great. The work is very fast as long as we honor. There's only one problem and only one solution. The problem is separation. From what? From your true self, from love, from joy, from the ultimate healing force that exists within you, from bliss. In A Course in Miracles, peace is health. When you don't feel one with your true nature of peace, you're upset, you are distressed, you might feel dis-ease. The solution is oneness. How do we get back there? Well, the truth is you're already part of the universe. You can't be separate from the universe. You can't be separate from the innate oneness, but you sure can feel separate. Therefore, forgiveness really becomes the essence of the work. When there's separation in your own mind, when you're antagonistic towards self and others, when you're holding grievances, it's an attack. Your attack thoughts attack you. Once the mind is brought back to inner peace and the return to love through forgiveness, the ripple effects through the entire nervous system and all the physiology and every aspect of your life are significant. So we don't just use hypnosis teachings, although we do for sure. I pull from the deep wisdom traditions that are tried and true, thousands of years old. I mean, A Course in Miracles is a newer teaching, but it's based on the ancient wisdom of mostly the Judeo-Christian Islamic path, but it's largely a Christian theology. Our school isn't any one religion at all. It's not a religion. But I'm going to pull from truth wherever I hear it to help people to find their life better, right? But nobody's ever preaching here. Just in our model of the school is take what you like, leave what you don't. So interpersonal connections. These are actually some of our students. I used to give lectures called Healing the Mind, Healing the Body. That's part of our school now, even though I'm not publicly lecturing about that the way I used to. We access the subconscious, we find the root cause of the problem, and we do it with other people with these powerful techniques that get very quick access to the mind. Let's take a moment to look at these beliefs and emotions that we all carry. So, first, let's jump actually to the beliefs. Here, I hope you can see, these are basically the beliefs that I've heard human beings having in their subconscious. There's more, but imagine if you were just a child, innocent, guiltless, neutral, happy actually. And then life happens to you and they make you feel like you're unlovable, you're unwanted, you're not loved, you're nothing, you're worthless, you're just useless, you're not valuable and important. Then you're like, I'm just broken. I guess I'm bad. I'm stupid. I'm ugly. I'm dumb. I'm not good enough. I'm incapable. I'm incompetent. I'm powerless and trapped. What kind of behavioral outputs do you think we'll have? What kind of psychosomatic illness? The mind is extremely powerful. And if you're holding those kind of thoughts, and I'm telling you, 90+% of humanity are still holding those kind of thoughts. I don't have the statistic, but you've seen humans, right? We're wounded. To be a healed healer means you have transformed all this stuff inside of yourself. We transform it into the truth of who you are, not just positive thinking. I honor you are perfect, whole, and complete. You are inherently good. You are very intelligent. You're very smart. You are fully capable. You're powerful, empowered. You are free. You are lovable. It would be absolutely insulting for me to say otherwise. We talk to ourselves this way. You might tell yourself you're unlovable, but you would punch me if I told you you were, right? So if it's not okay for me to tell you that you're unlovable, it's not okay for you to tell yourself that. We can transform all of those false beliefs. Those beliefs lead to our negative emotions, predominantly hurt and sadness, fear, anger, and guilt. It's not that you shouldn't feel these emotions. It's okay to have emotion, but the problem is people hold on to it, they harbor it, they suppress it, they repress it, they bottle it up. That will cause psychosomatic illness. You free the subconscious of negative beliefs and negative emotions, you will have significantly healthier behaviors, and you couldn't create psychosomatic illness. Could the body get sick? Yeah, it's a body. But you drink some poison, it's probably going to affect you. For most people, it would. But psychosomatic illness never would arise if you've cleared your subconscious of all that pain. Your true nature is meant to be happy, joyful, loving, peaceful, naturally forgiving, and of course, loving yourself, feeling joyful and safe in this world. So, um, there's some other beliefs there. So we talked about where does all this stuff come from? Your past events lead to beliefs, lead to emotions, which lead to psychosomatic illness and behaviors. We can reverse this, getting to the root cause, which is again not just a handful of events, but a handful of negative relationships that have really hurt you and influenced you. When you heal those, your default mode is just, how hard you have to work to try to feel good? You shouldn't have to. Your natural state of being when you're free of these blockages is generally happy, peaceful, joyful, and you tap into who you truly are, which means you're important and valuable. You have a purpose and a mission on this earth, and I love helping people to tap into that. As I mentioned earlier, my background is Chinese medicine. So part of why I don't do acupuncture and massage and Reiki and all these things I'm very well trained in is because I realized the mind is the problem. In A Course in Miracles, it says only the mind needs to be healed. Why in Chinese medicine are the energies getting blocked all the time? Why are your chakras closing? Right? Like, it's like, really, why are we so energetically out of balance? Why do you have to keep going and getting massage and Reiki and acupuncture? That stuff is great, but why do we even need that? Once you realize these, quote, energy imbalances are really just distorted emotions, then in Chinese medicine, you realize the emotions affect the organ systems. Anxiety will absolutely affect your physical heart. Sadness and grief affects your lungs. Fear will definitely affect your kidneys, right? Adrenal fatigue, but more than that, you live with chronic fear, it depletes what's called kidney yin and kidney yang in the system. Overthinking and worry really affects the spleen. I mentioned I'm working with a client now who has pancreatic cancer, which also has metastasized over to the liver. The liver tumor is absolutely shrinking right now through this work and whatever else he's doing, of course. In Chinese medicine, the spleen, stomach, and pancreas are paired organs. The overthinking was a big thing. He was constantly using his mind, never stopping, and holding a lot of anger, which really affects the liver. So I saw this clearly in Chinese medicine. I'm like, I don't see how acupuncture needles can resolve this problem. I don't see how massage or Reiki or herbs can resolve this problem. How can massaging somebody truly clear their anger, which is causing their liver qi stagnation? This work that we're talking about can do that. So really, only the mind needs to be healed. Again, thank God we have doctors and acupuncturists and massage therapists and Reiki people. Um, but I like to say, I don't know at what point in medical school doctors lose common sense. They'll tell their patients that your issue is stress, but they don't necessarily deal with the stress, except there's usually diagnosis and medication. And, again, I'm not putting down doctors. I'm just saying a lot of illness is psychosomatic, and we need people doing this. We work with a psychiatrist who's becoming more and more part of our team. And I was talking to him the other day. He said, Matthew, I really want to keep working with you because we need more of the soft therapies. He said, in psychiatry, I can diagnose, I can medicate. He teaches meditation. He's a great guy. But at the same time, not everybody needs psychiatry or even a licensed psychologist. Gil Boyne called this a therapy for the people. I work with the model. We help the able to be more able. Unless you're a psychiatrist, you probably shouldn't be working with significant mental health conditions, or a licensed psychologist or the other mental health professions that are licensed. Our school is licensed, but this profession is not a licensed profession. You're certified when you graduate a school like this. You have legitimate state licensed diplomas, but you're not a licensed practitioner of the healing arts according to anyway Florida law. But basically, working in coordination with licensed practitioners, you can work to heal the mind, to heal the body. It's very, very rewarding work. Also, moving on to another different topic for a moment, you can use the mind to achieve success in every aspect of your life. I teach something which is offered pretty much for free every other Sunday night now, called the Life Mastery Course. These are the main categories in our lives. These are prioritized. I do believe putting spirituality first is always your best investment. Find inner peace, joy, love, be connected to source. Your life will be better. It'll help your mind and heart to be in a much better space, and it always helps your physical health. Um, Career and finances, we do incredible work with financial prosperity programming using hypnosis. Literally, if you say, all right, the most I made was 50,000 per year, just start programming your subconscious to break 100,000 per year. Not long after that, you're going to find that you're achieving that. I'm not saying life is always easy, right? This current economy can be challenging. I'm not pretending I'm not a business person who finds challenges, but I'm telling you, I absolutely program my mind to reach my goals. I've been doing that for about 30 years now. You can help to improve your relationships and then every other category. So we basically teach you to use your mind to achieve success in every aspect of your life. It's not just self-realization about knowing who you truly are, which is a very worthwhile investment to know who you truly are. It's about self-actualization, being successful in every aspect of your life. Just so you know, we did just have this wonderful retreat that Bill and Elizabeth, who are here, were at. Part of my thing, I mentioned Anahat in the beginning, but I've always felt like I think I'm meant to be open in a monastery. I've written books on it. I've lived in monasteries and ashrams. My whole life has been really dedicated to that. And we just had our first retreat up here in the Adirondack Mountains of upstate New York. I'm looking into doing another one in September for those who might be interested. Um, but I mention it because there's if you haven't caught on, there's real spiritual depth behind what we do. And for some people, this is the wrong fit. For others, it's like, oh my God, I've been looking for this my whole life. Um, I've written 6 books. You can see 4 of them here. The Sutras on Healing and Enlightenment, a spiritually based approach to mind-body healing. I wrote that in the Himalayas in India. I helped a woman there with rheumatoid arthritis heal. And when everybody saw what happened to her, they said, Matthew, she was walking like a cripple. Now she's walking like a queen. What did you do? I want sessions. And when I realized, God, I've been doing this for almost 10 years at that time. Um, that was in the year 2000. So I've been doing this now for 30 years. More or less, I've been in the whole field for about 30 years. The school's been in existence for 18. But after about 8 to 10 years, I wrote this book. So I'm like, I think I figured out what's going on here. My newest book is Facilitating Enlightenment. It maps the entire trajectory of our school. So if you want to know what this is really all about in great detail, that's the book. Because I've had students say, this is so much training. I don't know where it's going. read that book once, you'll know definitely where it's going. And if you just want a primer to the work, the book Interpersonal Hypnotherapy, Honoring the Sacred and Transformational Relationships. Sarah said, I feel that it's worth mentioning that this work can be as spiritual or as secular as you choose. Absolutely. You don't have to get into the transpersonal component of it. That's part of why it's last. But yeah, and we have to take what you like, leave what you don't. So obviously there's a spiritual undertone here, but that's only because I honor that you're a spiritual being. And if that's what you are, it would be such a shame to not mention it, right? But again, when you start the training, we do keep that stuff kind of on the down low until we go deeper and deeper through the hours. Also, I wrote a book called Peace Under All Circumstances. You can find it for free as an audiobook on YouTube if you like. So, yeah, we are currently enrolling for the May 13th class. There's still space available online and for the Orlando location. And that brings us to the hour mark. So let's check in with everybody. Questions, sharing, topics you might want to dive into. Judy said to me, I hope I can read this, Judy. It's in private message. He said, thank you, Matthew. I'm using your meditation session faithfully as part of my recovery. I was in hospital for 3 weeks and shared your teachings and school with my entire team. All were impressed and say I'm healing faster than most in my situation after brain stroke. I've gone from no movement in my left leg to today walking mostly without a walker today. Yay, you said. No, yay, Judy. Congratulations. I'm telling you, Sarah said like there's times she's like so grateful to do this work. When I was in full-time practice before I opened this school, I was seeing 25 clients per week. And I remember after like 5 clients a day, sometimes literally going into the back room and just being like, oh my God, thank you. Like I get to do this. This is what my life is about. And it's so important to me. I feel obligated to share it with you guys. So again, it's a take what you like, leave what you don't. The school isn't for everybody, but I know for those who really get it, they get it. So I love offering careers. I love helping people to be their own boss, to choose their own hours, to set a good, solid hourly rate, to help people to heal spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. One of our graduates who's now working for us named Jonathan, he said, Matthew, when I got into this almost seemed too good to be true. Everything you were saying just seemed so good and so amazing. And he went through it and now he's working with us because I think he gets it. Daphne said, yes, she's okay with me sharing. Good. I took that chance. So excellent. Thank you. Any questions you're sharing? Kevin said, hi, I'm really loving the material. Thank you. I'm in Florida. Exactly how do you partner with a medical provider or LMHC? The logistics, I mean. And is this common? Like what percent of LMHCs, for instance, would be open to such an arrangement? Rough estimate. Well, you really don't have to partner with licensed mental health counselors. It's more going to be about working with medical doctors. So, um, we don't recommend that you work on diagnosed mental health conditions unless you actually have the training to do so. So when it comes to like bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, manic depressive, dissociative identity disorder, unless you're a licensed mental health provider, you really shouldn't work with that kind of stuff. We generally work with what's called non-therapeutic hypnosis. And I would say the average hypnotherapist, 90% of what they're doing is called non-therapeutic. You don't need a referral at all. So I wouldn't say you're necessarily partnering. Now, licensed mental health counselors, I don't think we partner too much with them, but I do have a graduate who I said did $250,000 in 2023. She partners with psychiatrists. They do refer patients to her. So, you can do that. And then you're asking like how. So I would say you probably, yeah, we don't see too much partnering with LMHCs, but definitely psychiatrists, there's an option. Mostly we connect with medical doctors. Um, as far as how does that work? So, um, usually you just advertise, you just put the word out there that you use hypnosis to help to heal the mind, to heal the body. You can mention you work on medical conditions, you always put an asterisk there, and then there's a clear disclaimer. And we always encourage you to abide by Florida hypnosis law in pretty much all 50 states. If you're not in Florida, talk to us about the laws in your respective state. We monitor all 50 state laws every year. In Florida, basically, it says if you're going to work on a medical condition or dental or mental health, but you heard my take about the mental health stuff. You can work with like, basic anxiety, depression, maybe PTSD. But soon as, you're really getting to diagnose mental health conditions, then yeah, you do want to get the referral. And you can. The model, holds true for what I'm going to say now. Mostly, we just advertise what we work with, things you'd be passionate about helping with. Then when your client comes in and says, okay, I have cancer, can you help me to heal that? Yes, with a referral from your physician. We give you the piece of paper if you want, or we have a form you can give your client, or you just tell them, go to your doctor, get a referral that says, yes, you can use hypnosis for this condition. I would say get those referrals 95% of the time. Then the patient, we call them client, comes to us with the referral. It's in the file folder. You're legal. You're good to go. You can start using clinical medical hypnosis to help that person to heal. That's usually how it goes. We teach you how to do lunch and learns. You can go to a medical doctor's office or a dentist. I've done this before for sure. You go during their lunchtime, you bring them pizza, you talk to the staff, and you leave your cards, you leave your brochures. They could very well refer people to you. But honestly, those relationships can be a bit hard to nurture because eventually they forget about you. But basically, we teach you how to advertise in 20 hours. There's business practice management, advertising and marketing training in the school. When you cast a big enough net, you'll start getting word of mouth referrals, your website, your social media. You'll definitely, as long as you do that job right, you get clients, you just say what you want to work with. And again, whenever it's a medical condition, you just tell them to get a referral. Again, we get it usually 95% of the time. And that's pretty much how that goes. Yeah, so it wouldn't be so much partnering with LMHCs because they kind of work on almost the same thing we do, but obviously with a license, they can go deeper into the stuff they're trained to work on. So let me know, Kevin, if that answers your question. And then William, Bill said, are there more classes pre-recorded or synchronous? We have a synchronous and asynchronous model. So three components of our training. One is called interactive distance learning. Those are pre-recorded videos done by me pretty recently. I redid those in about 2023 to 2024. So they're hot off the press, some of the most modern stuff with high production value. That accounts for about 60% of the whole training. You could do that basically at your own pace. If you find, whoa, I can't keep up with all the material, you could always move to the next cohort. So it takes about 10 months to go through the training, but if you find that pace is too fast, then you can just slow down and just take 3 or 4 extra months moving on with the next cohort. So anyway, it's about, thank you, Kevin. So it's actually about 60% of watching videos. We recommend you do about 15 total hours applied per week to get through this training in about 10 months. If you can only do 7 hours per week or so, it might take 2 years to get through, but we have plenty of flexible options for that. 60% is basically watching videos, but you're taking notes, you're making flashcards, you're practicing on your teddy bear, your family and friends. So it's interactive in that sense. Then every week, pretty much once a week, with the occasional week off, you meet with me on like Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday nights for 2 hours. That's 7 to 9 o'clock if you Eastern time. If you can't make it, you can watch those as recording. Some students I never actually even meet. They watch the videos, the interactive distance learning. They watch the recorded live classes. They show up for their practicum hours. Yeah, I never actually see them during live class. So you've got about 10 hours per every 100 hours dedicated to live or interactivity with an instructor, and that's still currently me. I've been training some of other teachers to take that over, but students are like, we really still want you, and still young enough, healthy enough to teach, but I'm trying to make me obsolete someday. So I'm still teaching the evening classes, which I do love to do. And then every 7 weeks or so, you come in-house to our Orlando location, or you could do the practicum online. We're completely licensed now by the Department of Education to do the training 100% online. So you could do the 30 hours of practicum online or in Orlando location. That does need to be done, in person. So the online, honestly, is pretty much just as good as in person. You can't hug your classmates, but you can learn the stuff well. The groups bond extremely well. And most hypnotherapy is done online now. I don't see clients in person hardly at all anymore. I just had somebody fly up here to work with me. So to be honest, I saw somebody recently in person, but honestly, I barely see clients in person. You can do this on Zoom. That means you can do it from anywhere in the world. You can get clients from anywhere in the world, or at least, all over the United States for sure. Okay, Sarah said, you're going to love it. So happy you're with us. Oh, Anna said, I can't wait to start the program. I've got a feeling that it will be life changing for me. Thank you. And I like saying to people, even after like 100 hours, they're like, oh my God, this is so profound. I'm like, you ain't seen nothing yet. The rabbit hole goes really deep. You make friends for life by going through a training like this. You definitely deeply connect with your classmates. We have a HypnoBuddy system where after a couple of weeks, we'll pair you up with other classmates. We're currently launching a new mentoring program where you can work with graduates or senior staff. You would pay senior staff, but we have a lot of graduates who are willing to do basic mentoring at no charge. There's a community support group that happens two different times during the week or during the month. You can find that on our website. So tons of community support, including retreats and conferences that are happening. But anyway, the answer to the question is 60 out of every 100 hours, 60 hours is watching videos, 10 hours is live interactivity with me as your instructor, and then 30 hours is practicum. I might be taking over some of that instructing, but also we have a very solid team of people who've been doing that for years now. Kind of gives me a little break. Anna said, how do the practicum hours online? How do you do those? Do I have to have someone to practice on? You practice on your classmates. So what we do is we keep a 1 to 5 student to teacher ratio. For every teacher, you'll have 5 students, approximately. Sometimes 6, sometimes 4, but average 5. You will have the technique done on you. You will practice the technique on someone, and then you'll watch it usually 3 more times. But everything builds upon itself. So that one technique, like in hypnotic induction, you will see it. Well, you see it in the videos, you'll see it in the live classes, you'll see it and experience it a good 5 times during practicum. That's a good 7 exposures just to that. But in the next 100 hours, we keep using that induction. So that's like another 7 times you've been exposed to it. So you practice in your classmates, you practice in your HypnoBuddy out of class, and you can do this all online. There's very little touch involved in hypnotherapy, and you can completely leave the touch out. And that's like rolling the head or lifting and dropping the arm. You don't have to do that. And honestly, if you didn't know about the few things where we would touch a client, you wouldn't even know what you're missing. So there's what are called rapid inductions. Those are very hard to learn online. We still teach those in Orlando. So if you do the 100% of training online and you're like, I really want to learn those rapid inductions in person, no charge. Go to Orlando at the times that we teach those. Have a nice trip to Disney World, and you could sit in. It's usually just a Saturday afternoon where we teach you how to do those rapid inductions. But you can learn those online. You just can't really practice those online. Honestly, except for my recent client who just came up here, I haven't done a rapid induction in person since about 2018. You just don't have to do those. And some people really don't like them, honestly. So yeah, you can practice everything online. I see all of my clients online, and yeah, we provide basically your classmates to practice on, along with the HypnoBuddy system, so you can work with each other. Once you have 100 hours of training, you can go into our dashboard and sign up for session exchange. So basically there, you will see other graduates and current students who want to do a session exchange. You say, hey, I'd like to pair up with you. Free hypnotherapy, working with a student, on your own. Great. Sarah said, by the end of it, you'll be having a hard time figuring out what you even want to work on. At least that was my experience. Yeah, anything the mind affects, hypnosis can work on, and that's everything. So, yeah, literally consider every aspect of your life you want to improve. Start using these techniques. A year or two later, radically different life situation. Daphne said, Practicum weekends were a lot of fun, and it is amazing to see where classmates start and how they transform from day one to graduation day. It is definitely life transforming for us and those we are given the pleasure to work with. Thank you, Daphne. It's beautiful. Yeah, I wish we had more time, but read our Google reviews if you haven't yet, if you're kind of wondering, what are people saying about the work. Yeah, all our Google reviews are 5-star, and yeah, I'm proud for, the quality that we put into this over the years, the heart, the love that's gone into this. Great. And it's nice to see Tony again. Good to see you. Graduate from many years back. Awesome. Any questions or any other questions you're sharing? All right. Well, if you give the school a call, 800-551-9247, you'll talk with our dear Sarah Ajna now. Our dear Monica Waterman are retired. So Sarah took over. She's absolutely wonderful. And again, she's an instructor and a graduate, so she can really tell you what this is all about. She's got a beautiful heart, beautiful being. So yeah, check in with Sarah. And then you could do a free Zoom consultation with her if you want as well. So yeah, next class starts May 13th. If you can make it for that. The next class is sometime in September. Forget the exact date, but yeah, we usually do 3 starts a year. All right. Kenya, hey, welcome. Kenya is also a graduate. The training was amazing. It changed my life. And Kenya is actually one of the people who are here who are part of our new NERVA, Interpersonal Hypnotherapy Clinic. You can go to mynerva.com. We just launched the new clinic just recently, like this week. We've just turned the advertising on for it. So basically, no guarantee. But when you graduate, if you're a member of our association, you could apply to be a member of the clinic. We've never had this before, and we basically funnel clients your way. So it can be sometimes hard as an entrepreneur to open your own business. Of course, you can do it, but if you're like, God, I still want more clients, you could also be part of the clinic, and we will be funneling clients to you. That's been a very expensive, horribly difficult process, but we're finally ready to launch, and it's taken me 18 years to get to that point. So by the time you guys who would be starting in May when you graduate, ideally the clinic is really solid up and running. And yeah, we can make it a lot easier for you to succeed in this business. All right. And of course, you don't have to make it a business. Just the training alone is deeply spiritual and personal growth. Just that alone is worth it in my experience. All right. Thank you, everybody. Last question you're sharing before I wrap it up. All right. Appreciate you, Sarah and Jose. Thanks for being here. Thank you, our graduates. Welcome, new students. And we'll look forward to starting with our new students on May the 13th. Good to see you again, Mary Beth and Kenya
Thank you,
and
Ben.
Tony and everyone, Daphne and Judy. Thank you all. Have a great night and hope to see you on the 13th.
Good night.
Good night, all.